Section 31 of Myths and Legends of the Sioux. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Shrimpfish. Myths and Legends of the Sioux by Marie L. Mclaughlin. Story of the Two Young Friends. There were once, in a very large Indian camp, two little boys who were fast friends. One of the boys, Chosky, meaning firstborn, was the son of a very rich family and was always dressed in the finest of clothes of Indian costume. The other boy, Haki, meaning lastborn, was an orphan and lived with his old grandmother, who was very destitute, and consequently could not dress the boy in fine raiment. So poorly was the boy dressed that the boys who had good clothes always tormented him, and would not play in his company. Chosky did not look at the clothes of any boy whom he chose as a friend, but mingled with all boys, regardless of how they were clad, and would study their dispositions. The well-dressed he found were vain and conceited. The fairly well-dressed he found selfish and spiteful. The poorly clad he found to be generous and truthful, and from all of them he chose Haki for his coda, friend. As Chosky was the son of the leading war chief, he was very much sought after by the rest of the boys, each one trying to gain the honor of being chosen for the friend and companion of the great chief's son. But, as I have before said, Chosky carefully studied them all, and finally chose the orphan Haki. It was a lucky day for Haki when he was chosen for the friend and companion of Chosky. The orphan boy was taken to the lodge of his friend's parents, and dressed up in fine clothes and moccasins. When the Indian sons claim anyone as their friend, the friend thus chosen is adopted into the family as their own son. Chosky and Haki were inseparable. Where one was seen, the other was not far distant. They played, hunted, trapped, ate, and slept together. They would spend most of the long summer days hunting in the forests. Time went on, and these two fast friends grew up to be fine specimens of their tribe. When they became the age to select a sweetheart, they would go together and make love to a girl, each helping the other to win the affection of the one of his choice. Chosky loved a girl who was the daughter of an old medicine man. She was very much courted by the other young men of the tribe, and many a horse loaded with robes and fine porcupine work was tied at the medicine man's teepee in offering for the hand of his daughter. But the horses, laden as when tied there, were turned loose, signifying that the offer was not accepted. The girl's choice was Chosky's friend Haki. Although he had never made love to her for himself, he had always used honeyed words to her, and was always loud in his praises for his friend Chosky. One night the two friends had been to see the girl, and on their return Chosky was very quiet, having nothing to say and seemingly in deep study. Always of a bright, jolly, and amiable disposition, his silence and moody spell grieved his friend very much, and he finally spoke to Chosky, saying, "Coda, what has come over you? You who are always so jolly and full of fun. Your silence makes me grieve for you, and I do not know what you are feeling so downhearted about. Has the girl said anything to you to make you feel thus?" "Wait, friend," said Chosky, "until morning, and then I will know how to answer your inquiry. Don't ask me anything more tonight, as my heart is having a great battle with my brain." Haki bothered his friend no more that night, but he could not sleep. He kept wondering what Pretty Feather, the girl whom his friend loved, could have said to Chosky to bring such a change over him. Haki never suspected that he himself was the cause of his friend's sorrow, for never did he have a thought that it was himself that Pretty Feather loved. The next morning, after they had eaten breakfast, Chosky proposed that they should go out on the prairies and see if they would have the good luck to kill an antelope. Haki went out and got the band of horses, of which there were over 100. They selected the fleetest two in the herd, and taking their bows and arrows, mounted and rode away towards the south. Haki was overjoyed to note the change in his friend. His old-time jollity had returned. They rode out about 5 miles, and scaring up a drove of antelope, they started in hot pursuit, and as their horses were very fleet of foot, soon caught up to the drove, and each singling out his choice, quickly dispatched him with an arrow. They could easily have killed more of the antelope, but did not want to kill them just for sport, but for food, and knowing that they had now all that their horses could pack home, they dismounted and proceeded to dress their kill. After each had finished packing the kill on his horse, Chosky said, "Let us sit down and have a smoke before we start back. Besides, I have something to tell you which I can tell better sitting still than I can riding along." Hockey came and sat down opposite his friend, and while they smoked, Chosky said, "My friend, we have been together for the last 20 years, and I have yet the first time to deceive you in any way, and I know I can truthfully say the same of you. Never have I known you to deceive me, nor tell me an untruth. I have no brothers or sisters. The only brother's love I know is yours. The only sister's love I will know will be Pretty Feathers, for brother, last night, she told me she loved none but you, and would marry you, and you only. So, brother, I'm going to take my antelope to my sister-in-law's tent and deposit it at her door. Then she will know that her wish will be fulfilled. I thought at first that you had been playing traitor to me and had been making love to her for yourself, but when she explained it all to me, and begged me to intercede for her to you, I then knew that I had judged you wrongfully, and that, together with my lost love, made me so quiet and sorrowful last night. So now, brother, take the flower of the nation for your wife, and I will be content to continue through life a lonely bachelor, as never again can I give any woman the place which Pretty Feather had in my heart." Their pipes being smoked out, they mounted their ponies, and Chosky started up in a clear, deep voice the beautiful love song of Pretty Feather and his friend Hockey. Such is the love between two friends who claim to be as brothers among the Indians. Chosky gave up his love of a beautiful woman for a man who was in fact no relation to him. Hockey said, "I will do as you say, my friend, but before I can marry the medicine man's daughter, I will have to go on the warpath and do some brave deed, and will start in 10 days." They rode towards home, planning which direction they would travel, and, as it was to be their first experience on the warpath, they would seek advice from the old warriors of the tribe. On their arrival at the village, Hockey took his kill to their own tent, while Chosky took his to the tent of the medicine man, and deposited it at the door, and rode off towards home. The mother of Pretty Feather did not know whether to take the offering or not, but Pretty Feather, seeing by this offering that her most cherished wish was to be granted, told her mother to take the meat and cook it, and invite the old woman of the camp to a feast in honor of the son-in-law who was soon to keep them furnished with plenty of meat. Hockey and his friend sought out all of the old warriors and gained all the information they desired. Every evening Hockey visited his intended wife, and many happy evenings they spent together. The morning of the 10th day the two friends left the village and turned their faces toward the west, where the camps of the enemy are more numerous than in any other direction. They were not mounted, and therefore traveled slowly, so it took about 10 days of walking before they saw any signs of the enemy. The old warriors had told them of a thickly wooded creek within the enemy's bounds. The old men said, "That creek looks the ideal place to camp, but don't camp there by any means, because there is a ghost who haunts that creek, and anyone who camps there is disturbed all through the night, and besides, they never return, because the ghost is Wakan, holy, and the enemies conquered the travelers every time." The friends had extra moccasins with them, and one extra blanket, as it was late in the fall and the nights were very cold. They broke camp early one morning, and walked all day. Along towards evening, the clouds which had been threatening all day hurriedly opened their doors, and down came the snowflakes thick and fast. Just before it started snowing, the friends had noticed a dark line about 2 miles in advance of them. Chosky spoke to his friend and said, "If this storm continues, we will be obliged to stay overnight at Ghost Creek, as I noticed it not far ahead of us, just before the storm set in." "I noticed it also," said Hockey. "We might as well entertain a ghost all night as to lie out on those open prairies and freeze to death." So they decided to run the risk and stay in the sheltering woods of Ghost Creek. When they got to the creek, it seemed as if they had stepped inside a big teepee, So thick was the brush and timber that the wind could not be felt at all. They hunted and found a place where the brush was very thick and the grass very tall. They quickly pulled the tops of the nearest willows together, and, by intertwining the ends, made them fast, and throwing their tent robe over this, soon had a cozy teepee in which to sleep. They started their fire and cooked some dried buffalo meat and buffalo tallow, and were just about to eat their supper when a figure of a man came slowly in through the door, and sat down near where he had entered. Hawkeye, being the one who was doing the cooking, poured out some tea into his own cup, and putting a piece of pounded meat and marrow into a small plate, placed it before the stranger, saying, "Eat, my friend. We are on the war-path, and do not carry much of a variety of food with us, but I give you the best we have." The stranger drew the plate towards him, and commenced eating ravenously. He soon finished his meal, and handed the dish and cup back. He had not uttered a word so far. Chusky filled the pipe and handed it to him. He smoked for a few minutes, took one last draw from the pipe and handed it back to Chusky, and then he said, "Now, my friends, I am not a living man, but the wandering spirit of a once great warrior, who was killed in these woods by the enemy whom you two brave young men are now seeking to make war upon. For years I have been roaming these woods in hopes that I might find someone brave enough to stop and listen to me, but all who have camped here in the past have run away at my approach, or fired guns or shot arrows at me. For such cowards as these I have always found a grave. They never return to their homes. Now I have found 2 brave men whom I can tell what I want done, and if you accomplish what I tell you to do, you will return home with many horses and some scalps dangling from your belts. Just over this range of hills north of us, a large village is encamped for the winter. In that camp is the man who laid an ambush and shot me, killing me before I could get a chance to defend myself. I want that man's scalp, because he has been the cause of my wanderings for a great many years. Had he killed me on the battlefield, my spirit would have at once rejoined my brothers in the happy hunting grounds. But, being killed by a coward, my spirit is doomed to roam until I can find some brave man who will kill this coward and bring me his scalp. This is why I have tried every party who have camped here to listen to me, but as I have said before, they were all cowards. Now I ask you 2 brave young men, will you do this for me?" "We will," said the friends in one voice. "Thank you, my boys. Now I know why you came here, and that is one of you came to earn his feathers by killing an enemy before he would marry. The girl he is to marry is my granddaughter, as I am the father of the great medicine man. In the morning there will pass by in plain sight of here a large party. They will chase the buffalo over on that flat. After they have passed, an old man leading a black horse and riding a white one will come by on the trail left by the hunting party. He will be driving about 100 horses, which he will leave over in the next ravine. He will then proceed to the hunting grounds and get meat from the different hunters. After the hunters have all gone home, he will come last, singing the praises of the ones who gave him the meat. This man you must kill and scalp, as he is the one I want killed. Then take the white and black horse and each mount and go to the hunting grounds. There you will see 2 of the enemy riding about, picking up empty shells. Kill and scalp these 2, and each take a scalp and come over to the high knoll, and I will show you where the horses are, and as soon as you hand me the old man's scalp, I will disappear, and you will see me no more. As soon as I disappear, it will start in snowing. Don't be afraid, as the snow will cover your trail, but nevertheless, don't stop traveling for 3 days and nights, as these people will suspect that some of your tribe have done this, and they will follow you until you cross your own boundary lines." When morning came, the 2 friends sat in the thick brush and watched a large party pass by their hiding place. So near were they that the friends could hear them laughing and talking. After the hunting party had passed, as the spirit had told them, along came the old man, driving a large band of horses, and leading a fine-looking coal-black horse. The horse the old man was riding was as white as snow. The friends crawled to a little brush-covered hill, and watched the chase after the shooting had ceased. The friends knew it would not be long before the return of the party, so they crawled back to their camp, and hurriedly ate some pounded meat and drank some cherry tea. Then they took down their robe, and rolled it up, and got everything in readiness for a hurried flight with the horses. Scarcely had they got everything in readiness when the party came by, singing their song of the chase. When they had all gone, the friends crawled down to the trail, and lay waiting for the old man. Soon they heard him singing. Nearer and nearer came the sounds of the song, until at last, at a bend in the road, the old man came into view. The two friends rose and advanced to meet him. On he came, still singing. No doubt he mistook them for some of his own people. When he was very close to them, they each stepped to either side of him, and before he could make an outcry, they pierced his cowardly old heart with 2 arrows. He had hardly touched the ground when they both struck him with their bows, winning first and second honors by striking an enemy after he has fallen. Chosky, having won first honors, asked his friend to perform the scalping deed, which he did, and wanting to be sure that the spirit would get full revenge, took the whole scalp, ears and all, and tied it to his belt. The buffalo beef, which the old man had packed upon the black horse, they threw on the top of the old man. Quickly mounting the 2 horses, they hastened out across the long flat towards the hunting grounds. When they came in sight of the grounds, there they saw 2 men riding about from place to place. Chosky took after the one on the right, Hucky the one on the left. When the 2 men saw these 2 strange men riding like the wind towards them, they turned their horses to retreat towards the hills, but the white and the black were the swiftest of the tribe's horses, and quickly overtook the 2 fleeing men. When they came close to the enemy, they strung their arrows onto the bowstring, and drove them through the 2 fleeing hunters. As they were falling, they tried to shoot, but being greatly exhausted, their bullets whistled harmlessly over the heads of the 2 friends. They scalped the 2 enemies and took their guns and ammunition, also secured the 2 horses and started for the high knoll. When they arrived at the place, there stood the spirit. Hucky presented him with the old man's scalp, and then the spirit showed them the large band of horses, and saying, "Ride hard and long," disappeared, and was seen no more by any war parties, as he was thus enabled to join his forefathers in the happy hunting grounds. The friends did as the spirit had told them. For 3 days and 3 nights they rode steadily. On the 4th morning they came into their own boundary. From there on they rode more slowly, and let the band of horses rest, and cropped the tops of long grass. They would stop occasionally, and while one slept, the other kept watch. Thus they got fairly well rested before they came in sight of where their camp had stood when they had left. All that they could see of the once large village was the lone tent of the great medicine man. They rode up onto a high hill, and further on towards the east they saw smoke from a great many teepees. They then knew that something had happened, and that the village had moved away. "My friend," said Chosky, "I'm afraid something has happened to the medicine man's lodge, and rather than have you go there, I will go alone, and you follow the trail of our party and go on ahead with the horses. I will take the black and the white horses with me, and I will follow on later, after I have seen what the trouble is." "Very well, my friend, I will do as you say, but I'm afraid something has happened to Pretty Feather." Hucky started on with the horses, driving them along the broad trail left by the hundreds of travois. Chosky made slowly towards the teepee, and, stopping outside, stood and listened. Not a sound could he hear. The only living thing he saw was Pretty Feather's spotted horse, tied to the side of the tent. Then he knew that she must be dead. He rode off into the thick brush, and tied his 2 horses securely. Then he came back and entered the teepee. There, on a bed of robes, lay someone apparently dead. The body was wrapped in blankets and robes, and bound around and around with parfleche ropes. These he carefully untied and unwound. Then he unwrapped the robes and blankets, and when he uncovered the face, he saw, as he had expected to, the face of his lost love, Pretty Feather. As he sat gazing on her beautiful young face, his heart ached for his poor friend. He himself had loved and lost this beautiful maiden, and now his friend, who had won her, would have to suffer the untold grief which he had suffered. What was that? Could it have been a slight quivering of the nostrils that he had seen, or was it mad fancy playing a trick on him? Closer he drew to her face, watching intently for another sign. There it was again, only this time it was a long, deep-drawn breath. He arose, got some water, and taking a small stick, slowly forced open her mouth and poured some into it. Then he took some sage, dipped it into the water, and sprinkled a little on her head and face. There were many parfleche bags piled around the tepee, and thinking he might find some kind of medicine roots, which he could use to revive her, he started opening them one after the other. He had opened 3 and was just opening the 4th, when a voice behind him asked, "What are you looking for?" Turning quickly, he saw Pretty Feather looking with him. Overjoyed, he cried, "What can I do so that you can get up and ride to the village with me? My friend and I just returned with a large band of horses and 2 scalps. We saw this tent and recognized it. My friend wanted to come, but I would not let him, as I feared if he found anything had happened to you, he would do harm to himself. But now he will be anxious for my return, so if you will tell me what you need in order to revive you, I will get it, and we can then go to my friend in the village. At the foot of my bed you will find a piece of eagle fat. Build a fire and melt it for me. I will drink it, and then we can go." Chosky quickly started a fire, got out the piece of fat, and melted it. She drank it at one draught, and was about to arise when she suddenly said, "Roll me up quick, and take the buffalo hair rope and tie it about my spotted horse's neck. Tie his tail in a knot and tie him to the door. Then run and hide behind the trees. There are 2 of the enemy coming this way." Chosky hurriedly obeyed her orders, and had barely concealed himself behind the trees when there came into view 2 of the enemy. They saw the horse tied to the door of the deserted tent, and knew that some dead person occupied the tepee. So, through respect for the dead, they turned out and started to go through the brush and trees, so as not to pass the door. The Indians consider it a bad omen to pass by the door of a tepee occupied by a dead body, that is, while in the enemy's country. So, by making this detour, they traveled directly towards where Chosky was concealed behind the tree. Knowing that he would be discovered, and there being 2 of them, he knew the only chance he had was for him to kill one of them before they discovered him. Then he stood a better chance at an even combat. On they came, little thinking that one of them would, in a few minutes, be with his forefathers. Chosky noiselessly slipped a cartridge into the chamber of his gun, threw it into action, and took deliberate aim at the smaller one's breast. A loud report rang out, and the one he had aimed at threw up his arms and fell heavily forward, shot through the heart. Reloading quickly, Chosky stepped out from behind the tree. He could easily have killed the other from his concealed position, but, being a brave young man, he wanted to give his opponent a fair chance. The other had unslung his gun, and a duel was then fought between the 2 lone combatants. They would spring from side to side like 2 great cats, then advance 1 or 2 steps and fire, retreat a few steps, spring to one side and fire again. The bullets whistled past their heads, tore up the earth beneath their feet, and occasionally one would hit its mark, only to cause a flesh wound. Suddenly the enemy aimed his gun and threw it upon the ground. His ammunition was exhausted, and slowly folding his arms, he stood facing his opponent, with a fearless smile upon his face, expecting the next moment to fall dead from a bullet from the rifle of Chosky. Not so. Chosky was too honorable and noble to kill an unarmed man, especially one who had put up such a brave fight as had this man. Chosky advanced and picked up the empty gun. The Toka enemy drew from a scabbard at his belt a long bowie knife, and taking it by the point, handed it, handle first, to Chosky. This signified surrender. Chosky scalped the dead Toka, and motioned for his prisoner to follow him. In the meantime, Pretty Feather had gotten up and stood looking at the duel. When she heard the first shot, she jumped up and cut a small slit in the tent, from which she saw the whole proceedings. Knowing that 1 or both of them must be wounded, she hurriedly got water and medicine roots, and when they came to the tent, she was prepared to dress their wounds. Chosky had a bullet through his shoulder and 1 through his hand. They were very painful, but not dangerous. The prisoner had a bullet through his leg, also 1 through the muscle of his left arm. Pretty Feather washed and dressed their wounds, and Chosky went and brought the black and white horses, and, mounting Pretty Feather upon the white horse, and the prisoner on her spotted one, the three soon rode into the village, and there was a great cry of joy when it was known that Pretty Feather had come back to them again. Hawkie, who was in his tent grieving, was told that his friend had returned, and with him Pretty Feather. Hearing this good news, he at once went to the medicine man's tent, and found the medicine man busily dressing the wounds of his friend and a stranger. The old medicine man turned to Hawkie and said, "Son-in-law, take your wife home with you. It was from grief at your absence that she went into a trance, and we, thinking she was dead, left her for such. Hadn't it been for your friend here, she would surely have been a corpse now. So take her and keep her with you always, and take as a present from me 50 of my best horses." Hawkie and his beautiful bride went home, where his adopted mother had a fine large tent put up for them. Presents of cooking utensils, horses, robes, and finely worked shawls and moccasins came from every direction, and last of all, Chosky gave as a present to his friend the Tukah man, whom he had taken as prisoner. On presenting him with this gift, Chosky spoke thus: "My friend, I present to you, that you may have him as a servant to look after your large band of horses. This man with whom I fought a 2 hours' duel, and had his ammunition lasted, he would probably have conquered me, and who gave me the second hardest fight of my life. The hardest fight of my life was when I gave up Pretty Feather. You have them both. To the Tukah, enemy, be kind, and he will do all your biddings. To Pretty Feather, be a good husband." So saying, Chosky left them, and, true to his word, lived the remainder of his days a confirmed bachelor. End of section 31.